We are then recording, and it's the Humble Bundle.
Humble Book Bundle. Oh, good.
Yes, there's another Humble Bundle by A-Press. I've never heard of these guys before. Stuff looks kind of interesting.
I don't recognize any of these names either.
Me either. The support charity is Race Forward this time.
Privileged attack vectors. Cybersecurity on Azure. Boy, that's a good idea. Yeah, well, I don't know.
PCI DSS.
These guys are usually great, so might be worth it. Pay $1 to unlock all this stuff.
Yeah, to unlock the first 5, and then if you pay 8, you get the next 6.
Wow.
The more you get them all.
Well, it looks pretty awesome. Yeah. Okay. Good. And then Kaitlyn is putting Soho devices. I bet.
Yeah. So this one's a lot of fun, and this goes right back into your exploit development class, Sam. Yeah. There's a buffer overflow issue with Soho devices, and it's a really simple one. So the way that it was compiled so that there's no ASLR. It's not position independent or anything. And there's a buffer overflow that allows you to essentially log in as whoever you want.
Neat.
And you just overflow the buffer and you're in. Then you're good. So there's a lot of these old devices or even newer devices that are still being put out as Internet of Things, and they don't have common anti overflow protection like a normal computer server would have.
Yep. Great. Sounds like good, clean fun. And I thought maybe this is the other one. This is why I contacted you about your FPGAs. There's this thing. This apparently has been known for months and concealed from us. And this one's serious. It has a logo and a site and everything. So you know this one is for real. Oh. This is the fast TCP/IP stack for Internet of Things devices from these guys, Trek. And apparently this thing is super popular, and they built it into all kinds of hardware without telling you. So you can't even tell that it's in the supply chain. And there's like 19 0 days in the TCP/IP stack. And all these devices are using it. And they've been warning everybody for 6 months to give them time to patch it. But of course, none of that stuff can be patched mostly because it's hard IoT stuff. So I was hoping I could put it in a virtual machine or something. But as far as I can tell, it absolutely requires messed up hardware. So maybe think of your FPGA. This one only runs on PowerPC 405. So emulating some old processor would be the thing to do.
Yeah, no, you could. I mean, it would be the problem with creating something like that is that in order to do it realistically, in order to get the actual bug, you usually have to delid the thing you're trying to replicate. Oh. And then do all the trace everything out, and then figure out how it works, and then code it in. It's a big problem.
Yeah, well, also they haven't released the POC or anything. All this is basically a teaser for their Black Hat talk, and only after their Black Hat talk are they going to release the code and everything. So I guess I can't really play with it. He has a demo video, but all he does is take over the UPS and turn off the power and not tell you how he did that. So it's like, but there's even a technical write-up and everything. So anyway, apparently this is awesome and difficult to find. Yeah.
So do we know what chip they're targeting?
They do have a list of the brand names involved someplace. Someplace in here they actually have a list of the brand names, but I'm not sure I can find it right away. And I thought there was another one. Yeah. By the way, they also use this device. Oh, that's the next one. Never mind. We'll get there. Anyway, it's a good point. I don't really know. There are a couple of technical papers, but they seem to dance around. They did have a few brand names, but they were just the usual stuff, like D-Link or something. It's not there.
So we might just have to wait until after Black Hat.
Yes. And apparently they've all had enough time to supposedly patch it if such a thing is possible. But as you know, most IoT devices either have no way to update firmware or it doesn't happen automatically, so nobody ever notices. So realistically, all you do is buy the later device. But anyway, sounds pretty great. And I thought it's pretty good to use IPv4 and IPv6 packets to make remote authorized control, remote code execution. So it sounds great. I totally want to play with it, but I guess I can't yet. Anyway, that's Ripple 20. It's the new hot thing. So then we got cyber attacks related to George Floyd.
Yeah, so this was kind of interesting. This paper and the article, the BBC article linked below it references the same deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting. Cloudflare published this paper this week, just depicting a massive spike in attack traffic directed towards various activism websites. And one thing that was cool about this is that I didn't know, but Cloudflare runs a free protection program for at-risk groups. So they got a lot of this data through organizations that were enrolled in their free protection program, and they're like, we went from a spike. We had just a massive spike from almost nothing to just tons and tons of attempts.
So advocacy, I get what Black Lives Matter or something?
Yeah, stuff like that, and related groups like that.
Well, that would make sense because you're in the news, so people just get riled up and decide it's time to attack you.
Yeah, but I thought this was pretty interesting. Not really sure where the attacks are coming from.
Racism. Oh, okay. Well, now that's a significant uptick from zero to a whole lot.
Yep. And I mean, these are some pretty powerful DDoS attacks because the rates are pretty insane. So
I'm guessing. I mean, who would actually have the ability to do that and care? I mean, that might take some resources.
That's what I wondered, because it's not like the nature of these attacks isn't necessarily just your average script kiddie, playing around in mom's space.
That earlier stuff I was thinking is just like anonymous script kiddies, but this looks more serious.
Yeah.
Unless it's just confusing me. But I wonder if this is a nation state attacker or something.
I was curious about that as well. So.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Anyway, it's interesting to hear about. And all right. And then we got Windows 10. What breaks fresh start? The only fresh start I know is kitty litter. There must be something else. There must be a cyber version of fresh start.
So I don't have Windows, so I did not know about this. But apparently in this new version, you can basically reinstall Windows without reinstalling Windows.
Well, they've had a bunch of those. They've called Restore My Computer, and before that was Image-Based Backup. And
so this is neither of those. This is not an image restore or that kind of stuff.
Well,
I thought they had this for a while because I remember doing that myself, where I would have Windows had an option where you could reset the computer to the default state when you first installed it.
And you also had a calendar with restore points you could go back to, and they just keep renaming these features. But anyway, this might be true. Fresh start. Actually, this sounds different. Reinstalling everything, including the pre-installed stuff.
Oh, that
sounds really
gross. Ew.
It removes the applications pre-installed by the manufacturer.
That's a great feature because every time you buy an HP machine, you have to reinstall Windows because they fill it with broken crap and ruin it.
Right.
So Microsoft having a feature that automatically takes all that crap off would be great.
Yeah,
that's good.
The tool that's supposed to do that.
Oh, that's a great idea.
For a second there, I thought it said that it keeps the pre-installed software.
No. That's what we're used to. We're used to having to restore Windows back, and all the bloatware shows up.
Yeah.
According to this, Fresh Start does not do that.
Well, I'm surprised that that Microsoft did this because I thought they were getting money from HP and stuff.
But do all their bloatware? Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe but I know they were forced to allow them to put in the bloatware because of the lawsuit, the splitting up Microsoft lawsuit that Ashcroft tanked. That was the result. They forced them to have 4 categories of software that they cannot block, like media players, backup utilities. That's why they have these horrible, crappy things on, and Microsoft can't say no. Mm-hmm. But it was, anyway, it does sound great. I know this is why Microsoft started making their own hardware, because they were so tired of people buying junk like a Dell machine and it doesn't work. And they said, Windows is actually a good product, but the actual product customers get is ruined by these third-party utilities that mess everything up. So if we just made our own hardware like Apple, we could actually deliver Windows machines that works to people. And then they made the Surface, which is really pretty good as Windows machines go. Anyway.
Yeah. And then they copied the Apple style for other stores and didn't decide to do anything original with that.
Well, sure, but at least they are catching up with Apple so much in the experience. And anyway, at least because they say, Windows is a lot better than people think it is if you actually didn't crap it up with all this junk. Anyway.
Well, that's like saying that a car is great to drive if you just don't drive it.
Well, I can understand. They're just a software company. And they said, we're kind of wrong. Apple is a hardware company with software. And that's the way you really do better. And I think Microsoft did pretty well with that. But I guess people still buy. Like at the college, they buy these low-end Dell machines, and my students get them from the military, and they don't work. You turn them on. They take a half hour to boot up. You install stuff. It doesn't even move. I don't know how you can even make Windows so useless. It has like 4 gigs of RAM, and it doesn't move. It's like selling cars with square wheels. It's amazing.
I mean, the thing about Windows is it's the only alternative to Linux or Unix. I mean, everything else is a Unix system except Windows. And I really appreciate that. I really like having that there's something else out there trying new ideas, even if sometimes they're not the best ideas.
Oh, sure. So we need some more competition.
Yeah.
Probably they give up and join.
Well, that's what they're doing now. Windows is in fact turning into Unix, right?
They're almost there.
I'm now seeing serious people say, now all I have is Windows, and I use Windows subsystem for Linux, and it's really good. And I don't need any more separate Linux box or anything. I said, man, I don't know, but
I'm pretty sure they're going to extend Linux, make it even better.
It's okay. That embedded Linux is okay for some things, but it's weird using it, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
For me personally, I do so much stuff that I couldn't just say that that's an adequate replacement, but I could see for certain things if your use cases are more limited, how it would work well for you.
And I must say, Apple is a lot nicer until you update the OS or change your password, and then you discover how completely messed up it is. This happened to a student in the lab. It happens to so many people. If you change your password, you might as well just throw the machine away. It's amazing. For the next 6 months, it will pop up all these keychain errors, and no amount of changing passwords and restoring things will ever make it stop doing that. It's amazing how messed up it is. There's a reason for both of them to exist. And we really could use a few more competitors too, in my opinion, because they both throw you down this rabbit hole of mind-numbing torture quickly.
Montana Linux for you, so there you go.
Yeah, Montana, that's true. Anyway, God knows, like Ubuntu or something is even more torture. But there ought to be something I guess there's Chromebooks. I'm thinking of something you ought to be able to give your non-technical parents that will not be whining for you to come over and fix it every week. And Macs are better than PCs for that, but really something that just wouldn't just break into 1,000 pieces spontaneously under normal use would be nice. And
Ubuntu's been pretty good in that regard for me for hooking up non-technical people with it.
What, Linux?
Ubuntu, yeah. Specifically.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. And I think that's the whole point of Chromebooks too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so API hooks, okay.
Right. So the way antivirus works in Windows is that it creates hooks into DLLs like nt.dll.
That's the way it still does?
Still does. And
not surprised.
Then it intercepts the process as it's running. And this article goes into how to get around that. And essentially what you do is you map out ntdll.dll. You load it up, and then you can compare from the file on the disk to what's in memory if something's been altered. And then you can just read the data from what's on the disk into the memory where nt.dll, the original would be, where the modified code is. And then you can completely bypass any interruptions by the antivirus software.
Sounds awesome. So you can basically disable the antivirus.
Essentially, yeah, you can bypass. I mean, and this will work for any sort of DLL injection, where if someone's trying to modify your program to behave differently and you want to stop that, you can just read the original DLL off the disk and then throw that code into the section of memory where you would expect that code to be.
This sounds awesome.
Yes.
Oh, great. That belongs in like the exploit development class.
Absolutely. Or I don't know, it's antivirus.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love all the stuff on antivirus bypassing, because I find that that's probably one of the things that frustrates me the most when I'm trying to just do something quick and I'm just like, okay, interpreter exe, go on the thing, and then all of a sudden the antivirus is like, nope, you're deleted. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Why do people do this nonsense? Security is such a drag.
Yeah. Yeah. So you either have to live off the land or figure out a way to just turn off or bypass the AV. And I just I want to know all my options.
Absolutely. So I thought this is another awesome one, like the Ripple one. Docker images are incredibly insecure. I mean, they're just thrown up by like random people, but it's much worse than I thought. Out of 2,500, only 430 don't have obvious vulns. And they found them by using this tool I didn't know about called Anchori. And what this does is it does supply chain analysis. It just tells you what garbage is running on your machine. I mean, what software is being used to build it, so you can see if it's using old vulnerable versions of stuff, which is pretty important. Anyway, so I thought that's very interesting. I know Amazon used to have like a community store of images, and then it turned out that a bunch of them had pre-generated SSH keys and backdoors and stuff in them, and I think they took it down. And that's kind of what Docker is. I mean, everybody has a Docker image for stuff, and I don't think it's ever audited or tested by anybody. So it's just up to whatever standards of whoever put it there. Anyway, so that's good, clean fun. Docker is like Python. You just install stuff. It comes from some online repository. You don't even know where it came from. You don't have any chance to edit, audit it, or anything. And yet people use it like crazy.
Yep.
So I think, more and more people are getting aware of like supply chain risks and trying to have some good way of paying attention to how many people have written this code we're running. Anyway.
It's actually a pretty awesome tool.
Yeah.
Open source.
Yeah, I've never seen it before, but I got to play with it, see what it does. That sounds good. And you want the DEA to stop surveilling protesters.
Yeah, so this was interesting. When the protest kicked off in Minneapolis, the DEA made a request to have their powers wildly expanded temporarily. And of course, our lovely administration just rubber stamped that right on through.
What does it have to do with drugs?
Well, so they wanted to be able to perform covert surveillance of the protesters for any drug-related activity. But they also wanted to make non-drug related requests.
Why?
And okay, and rubber stamped right on through. But now there are some legislators that are like, hey, wait a minute, this is problematic and we should probably stop this because it's infringing on people's First Amendment rights, which I agree with. This is really, really messed up.
I tend to agree. But I remember this is how I met with the head of the FBI cybercrime division, and I said, how did Ross Ulbricht get a life sentence? He said, oh, because of the drugs. And I said, oh, yeah, I forgot drugs were illegal. I'm from California. Well, I didn't say that out loud, though. But that was my first thought is, drugs?
And this
I totally forgot about the drugs. I mean, who cares about the drugs?
Nobody mentioned this, but I also wonder, like, what's the point of this? How much taxpayer money are we going to waste for no reason, yet again, just to infringe on people's freedom of speech and then, fear and intimidate people into compliance, So this does not seem like the purpose the DEA was created for in the beginning, but we'll see. So far, no word on getting those privileges rolled back. But
sounds like the police.
Yep.
Well, it reminds me of the Supreme Court decision today that they are not going to reverse the sanctuary state law. They say, look, we know that ICE wants to pick up people that are leaving from jail sentences to grab them and deport them, and the states have the right to not cooperate with that, which I appreciate. Anyway, so yep, usual madness.
Telling how easy it is for agencies like that to get their powers expanded during times like this, and the fact that I didn't even know it was a thing until I was reading articles about organizations and legislators saying like, hey, this isn't right, you need to roll it back. I'm like, geez, that happened fast, quickly, and quietly.
Yep, they have a lot of them. Yep, and then we've got Avon. Yeah, Avon is owned by some foreign country too, right? Isn't it?
Avon, I know they're, oh man, what's the Amway?
Brazil. I think they're from Brazil.
Yeah, owned by a Brazilian company. Yeah. They got breached.
Yeah.
The latest update is it was ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
Doppelpaymer gang.
Ah.
They have filed with the SEC. There is a document that's linked in here that has the document that they sent out. The Form 8K.
Yep. And so they got a leak site too. It seems to be the modern thing. Ransomware doesn't just encrypt your stuff; they also steal it and blackmail you.
Yep.
Yeah. Why miss out? Yeah. Okay. Now, Avon, for my kids, they would go door to door. I guess they're still around.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, Edward, just your hands.
And then this actually seems like a great idea. I've been thinking, I wish I had this, some way to automatically record everything whenever a cop comes near. That would be great.
Right, exactly.
Cop alert.
Yeah, so Liz was talking about surveillance, and that has been in the news recently. So here's the good news about surveillance. You can have your phone automatically start recording police interactions without even using your hands. So you can install these shortcuts for your iPhone that will trigger Siri to do essentially scripted events. And so one of these new shortcuts is called Police, and you just say, hey Siri, I'm being pulled over, and Siri will start recording.
Good, but does it automatically send it off the thing to the cloud because the cops will take your phone?
That is a good question. I mean, if your phone is configured to automatically back up your videos to iCloud, I would suppose so. But if it is not, I don't imagine it would.
Yeah,
I think the automatic backup only happens over Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah, apparently only when you stop it, it will send it somewhere.
This is pretty awesome, though. When one thing I'd like to make a PSA about is there's an ACLU app that's built for this purpose. So helpful to people that are on Android or whatever, where it's for the same purpose, but it also automatically uploads the video to the ACLU cloud servers as it's being rendered. Yeah. So that's a.
It would be great if this thing would do exactly that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Especially.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It does record your location and everything.
Good.
Along with taking videos.
I mean, that's fine, but send it to ALCU. That way they have it.
Yeah.
Realistically, you probably ought to do it every time you get in an Uber, if anybody still uses Uber. Anyway, all right. And then this one I thought was awesome. A new layer of defense in Intel chips, which really sounds good. They do a lot of smart things to wipe out essentially everything in my exploit development class, memory corruption, which has been, ridiculous for like 25 or 30 years. And now they have this control flow enforcement technology. And what it does is it seriously registers all the entry points and makes a second copy of the stack. And there's a special machine language operation it uses to mark locations that you are going to jump to. And you can only jump to those locations and nothing else. End branch. You mark, this is the right place to enter a routine and you can't come anywhere else, which is a really good idea. And all the heap mitigations I've heard about over the last 10 years have been earlier versions of this, where you no longer let people do ROP change. You can't jump towards the end of something, you just execute a couple instructions. So this sounds really significant. That would stop all modern exploitation techniques. So I'd like to see that go. And of course, nothing's ever perfect, but this sounds like a real leap forward.
And of course, it had to come out now as Apple's saying we're moving to ARM.
Well, apparently ARM already has something like it. ARM has some kind of pointer authentication protection. So evidently it's there too. Although not in a Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is incredibly insecure, hilariously insecure. It doesn't even have write or execute. By default, every memory location is read, write, and execute enabled, which is all the way back to like MS-DOS. But anyway, nobody ever thought of the Raspberry Pi as a high-end system. Its whole point is to be small and cheap.
When we start getting into security at this level, I wonder if this is going to have a performance impact.
Well, I would imagine, yes. I mean, certainly it's got more silicon dedicated just to doing this, and a second whole copy of the stack, so it's got to have a performance cost.
I wonder how this affects error handling and correction too.
Yeah, and it also seems to me like it would nuke antivirus. You can't be hooking in anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of fun concerns. I'd like to play with it and see what it does.
Well, if you're right, and antivirus can't, would die, they're probably going to have a workaround to let antivirus, do its thing, and then I'm sure that other programmers can figure out how to exploit that, and then just bypass the security features.
And so much for that.
Well, absolutely, but that's all you ever do is you raise the bar and another bunch of attackers come in. There's nothing ever perfect, but what you do is you make the previous generations of malware obsolete. So only the newest stuff gets through. That's all you can ever accomplish, I think. Anyway, we got a few from Liz here. I saw this one about light bulbs being used, which sounds like an idea.
So I have an extra story today.
Oh, yeah.
This is really interesting. There's a link to the original paper from this page, and the study's pretty. It's in the next one down. It's not that one, but it's the next one down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess this is how people motivate people to go to their Black Hat talks.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting, though. It reminded me of the other story we talked about a few months ago that had the chip bag demo, the visual microphone setup, where essentially they're translating visual data into auditory.
Yeah. And I remember this is cute. I mean, the thing I didn't realize is light bulbs are not uniform. If you move the light bulb, a different amount of light hits you. So the little bit of vibration here means that the light coming out is varying. So all they have to do is pick that up with a telescope, magnify it, and clean up the noise, and you can find out what people are saying in that room. Sounds pretty awesome.
It is. And the main defense, I was actually really surprised at the range too, that they were able to reproduce it from pretty far away. The main defense against it, the main defense against it is to use a lower wattage light bulb, because it makes it much harder to reconstruct.
Yeah, I think I remember they played a video. They were playing like music, and you could hear the music. I guess I can't find it. I saw one of these where they actually showed what they did. They played like Trump giving a speech, and you could hear him giving a speech or something.
I think you're thinking of the chip bag demo one.
Maybe that was it. Okay.
Yeah, but they're very similar, and this reminded me of that. Anyway, I just thought this was a really cool and interesting vector that came out, so I had fun reading about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other story that I have is totally insane. Completely and totally insane. So both of these links are to different sources for the same story.
Yeah.
Completely.
That's a Black Ops team.
Yeah. This is something out of a movie. I couldn't even believe it. And also for a major company to do this, if you're looking for a security job, maybe eBay is a good place to look, because a bunch of people just got fired over this.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would think they could go to prison.
Yeah. And, I mean, these people had a blog like some anti-eBay blog that probably had about 5 readers before all this. That was the other way. They really shot themselves in the foot. Nobody knew about this blog before, but now everybody does.
That's a bad effect.
Yeah, and I mean, basically they went through like a mob-style harassment campaign against these people.
Yep.
Just mind blowing.
Yep. And this reminds me of the Conway, Kellyanne's husband. This is what he does. He sends commercials that nobody can see except Trump, so Trump will retweet them and promote them. That's how he saves his money. Anyway, so yeah, it's just amazing that these dirty tricks go by. It's apparently nobody in eBay management. I mean, now they're going to be hiding like the Catholic Church, trying to pretend they didn't know about this, they didn't authorize it. It was one rogue agent, it was one bad cop. One
bad apple.
I know, that kind of thing. I mean, the question is, how high does this go?
You'd think that you'd contract outside henchmen for this kind of job, but I'm not the CEO of a massive tech company, so I guess I don't know.
Well, this is one thing that's right about Jack and Mark Zuckerberg. When they say, who made this decision? He says, I made it. I'm responsible for anything my company does. And it seems to me like that's eBay is going to have the same thing, essentially. I mean, the CEO's responsibility is to know if his employees are doing monstrously illegal things on behalf of the company.
He's the ex-CEO, so I'm curious to see how this shakes out.
Yeah. Heads have to roll for this. Anyway, yeah, that was a crazy one. All right. Are there any more comments?
I got mine, but I got silenced last time.
What's that? You got?
I said I have mine, but I got silenced last time.
You got silenced?
Yeah.
How?
Monty Python sucks.
Oh well, yeah. Well, now.
All right. Cut him off, Sam.
I think
I want to thank Irvin. This is his last time on the channel.
So now I need to find some way to go beep over that. This guy's bad. He's bad. Anyway. All right, I'm stopping the recording.